it comes to every single type of genre movie, you need good guys and you need bad guys. Otherwise, you don't have the good-bad dynamic, and we, the audience, don't know who to cheer for and we don't know who to boo for. We are simple creatures. You just have to give it to us. The other issue, though, is that when you do get that right, you got to ensure that when you kill off the big bad villain, that they have a spectacular death that makes you go, oh my gosh, I can't believe it, and leaves you thinking about said death for years to come. I know that sounds kind of screwed up, but it's really important. And if you don't believe me, well, I'm about to prove exactly what I mean. But my name is Simon from What Culture. We're talking sci-fi. It's Friday. Together that becomes Sci-Fi. And this is 10 sci-fi villains that had totally lame deaths. Number 10, Captain Phasma in The Last Jedi. Captain Phasma could have been so damn awesome, or at least I thought so. Gwendoline Christie played the role so well, and it really felt like we were shaping up for something huge in Star Wars Episode 8. And then we realised, no, what a bunch of morons we are now. This was also kind of true in The Force Awakens, because although she was playing a major character, you never really saw her on screen. And in terms of the story, her role was important, but once again, you were sat around going, well, where the hell happened to that crazy big thing I saw earlier? The real kicker was how she was killed off, though, because when she finally becomes face to face with Finn, something we've been waiting for 1.5 movies, her visor gets smashed, the floor beneath her disappears, and she just falls to her death. So that's it. Couldn't Finn have got a lightsaber and stabbed her in the chest? And that sounds a little bit flubbed up, but it would have been far better than this. It just always felt like there was going to be something far bigger with Phasma, and we never got it, to the point that the rumours were, oh, she's going to be back in Star Wars Episode 9, until J.J. Abrams did a conference call interview and he went, no man, she's dead. And we just had to accept it. Number 9, the aliens in Signs. We talked about this last week, but it goes to show that some elements of it are really bad and that it does divide audiences right down the middle. And I really do think the main reason for that is aliens. Like, you didn't really know what was going to happen, it was all freaky and interesting, and then extraterrestrials turn up. They just felt a bit like old hat. There was also massive expectations given that M. Night Shyamalan had done The Sixth Sense and he had done Unbreakable. Really, he would have had to pull out the best film ever made here to try and appease everyone. What really slapped you around the face, though, is how these aliens were killed. And I can only assume that the writers were just looking around the place going, what can we do? And somebody drank some H2O or some water and they went, that's it. We can just say they don't like water, like some kind of old-fashioned witch. But yes, you do see one of our friends from outer space have water thrown over them. Joaquin Phoenix realizes this and he gets a baseball bat and he beats the ever-loving ship out of it. And of course, the main question is that if aliens don't like water, why the hell were they trying to take over planet Earth where everything is essentially water? Number 8, Ultron in the Avengers. Ultron in the comics is a really well-written character and such a brilliant villain. He's like half intriguing, half fascinating, but full-on madman that cannot see anybody else's point of view. It's why when he was revealed as the bad guy for the second Avengers movies, people started to get so excited because they knew how flubbed up this guy was. And there was some initial disappointment because it turned out that for the movies, his origin story had been changed. But really, when you look at how he fit into the Marvel universe and how he interacted with all the characters, I still think they did a good job, which kind of sums up Marvel Studios overall. No matter what they turned their attention to, there was some kind of success out the other end. That is true until he gets called off. I mean, for starters, he never really gets his due throughout the film, and then, I don't know, Hulk throws him out of his plane helicopter thing, whatever you want to call it, and Scarlet Witch is there just doing all of her stuff, and the Vision goes poof. It's just a bit like, man, couldn't we have done something more? And you also realise that he's just more of a subplot point, that he is going to be this sort of overarching enemy. I feel like we could have done more. Number 7, Evil Bill and Ted in Bill and Ted. I love Bill and Ted to the point I cannot believe we actually got a third entry in this franchise. It has been one major highlight of 2020, and let's face it, there hasn't been many of those. However, if we do jump in the time machine and go back to 1991, let's not do anything like Evil Bill and Ted again, or at least from their death standpoint. And the movie as a whole is tremendous as our rocking friends fly through time and space and different dimensions, to the point they actually bump into evil robot versions of themselves who then kill them and then run amok. I mean, they even try and kill Bill and Ted's own girlfriend. Our heroes would never do that, meaning when you do get to the big battle of the bands towards the end of the movie, you think evil Bill and Ted are going to be killed in some sort of spectacular fashion. And instead, the good robots that Bill and Ted have built just take their heads off and decapitate them. Couldn't we have had a whole fight, or even a punch or a kick, something that felt climatic? I guess not, but again, Bill and Ted can do whatever they want, because I'm massively biased. Number 6, Koopa in Super Mario Bros. I mean, is there actually anything good in this? Probably not, and despite it being released in 1993, I still don't understand any of it. Aside from everybody involved clearly had never played the games, and they knew the relevant names, and then just did whatever the hell they wanted to do, especially when it came to Bowser, or here known as Koopa, or Dennis Hopper, running wild. And I can only assume that the producers thought that Mario's arch nemesis was some kind of hybrid between a human being and a dinosaur, which is why Mario and Luigi kill him off by pumping him full of juice, which turns him into an actual T-Rex, but the power of that is so much he is then reduced to a puddle on the floor. And I'm not making any of this up. Don't try and understand it though, don't try and explain it, and for the love of everything, do not go and watch the Super Mario Brothers movie. It's not so bad that it's good, it's just bad, it's just rubbish, it's just crap. Number 5, The Fallen in Transformers. If you were to survey people about the Transformers movies, Revenge of the Fallen would be the one that they'd tell you was the worst. I mean, not only did the audience hate it, the people that were in it hated it, and even Michael Bay came out and went, meh, I didn't really get that one right. So nobody likes Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, and when you watch it, you'll see why. It's also pretty offensive when you get into the story, but that made no difference given that it grossed over $800 million at the box office. And I just can't fathom how anybody could watch this twice, because it does that weird thing with the action where the camera is like this close. You can't tell what the hell is going on. Given the name of the movie too, it's no surprise that the Fallen plays a major role, and given that he's the guy that essentially brings the Decepticons into existence, you have to expect a spectacular death. But no, you don't get that. Optimus Prime just finds him and punches him in the chest. And that's that. He gets punched to death. And I understand that it's Optimus Prime, and Optimus Prime is one of the greatest corrections that we have ever had here on planet Earth. But how can you put him on so much of a pedestal when he couldn't even stand one single fist? It was also a real slap to hardcore fans who were so excited thinking they were going to see The Fallen on the big screen. But we just need to learn from this in case this franchise ever comes back. Just don't go to the cinema. Number 4, Zod in Man of Steel. Henry Cavill is a good Superman. I stand by this. I just don't think he's been given the right movies or the right materials to actually be able to get that across to a wider audience. And a huge reason for this was that fight he had at the end of Man of Steel against Zod. For you see, fans of Supes have very specific feelings about what he should be doing and what he shouldn't be doing. And that's why when it came to the 2013 movie, and well, he was doing a bunch of things they didn't agree with, it created a storm. And why is that? Well, because after Superman and Zod have practically destroyed a city, not caring about the innocent bystanders, Kal-El grabs his enemy's head and he snaps it and kills him. Aside from it being a pretty rubbish way for Zod to go out, we should have caught him in that weird glass thing again, fans were livid because this is not the way that you should be framing Superman. He's a straight up murderer now, and that's not what he does. He stands for truth, freedom, and the American way. I don't think this has calmed down in the 7 years since this movie came out either. Go and bring it up to someone you know is a hardcore Superman supporter, and you'll be there all day. Number 3, the Dark Overlord in Howard the Duck. I don't know why we're talking about Howard the Duck, because you already know the deal. It wasn't a good idea, it wasn't good in execution, it did nothing for George Lucas, and it came out in 1986, and maybe it should just be left there. Anyway, for much of the thing, the big bad threat is the Dark Overlord, who has the power to possess someone's brain and possess their body. And given that he is hidden in plain sight, for the majority of this, audiences everywhere like, well, I can't wait to see what he looks like, that's gonna be Fabu. And sure, when he does get revealed, he actually looks pretty good, remembering that this came out in the mid-80s, but as soon as you see the true form of the Overlord, I think he gets killed in around about 4.2 seconds. Because after being forced out of Walton Jennings' body, Howard the Duck just gets a Newton disintegrator and fires it at the thing, and that's it, he's been offed, leaving every single person in the theatre to scratch their heads like, what the hell did we wait around for? It was just too quick, hence why it gets in here. And unless it cost like $1 million just to move this thing inch by inch, so everyone thought, you know what, it's not worth it, I don't get what we were doing. Again, number 2, Boba Fett and Return of the Jedi. You knew it was coming, so much potential, and in many ways, literally thrown away. I don't care what anybody says. Those writing Star Wars did not care about Boba Fett. One of the greatest bounty hunters in the galaxy. His brief appearance in The Empire Strikes Back is actually genius, or it would have been, if it had gone this way, because it makes you go, well, when we get to the sequel, surely he's gonna play a huge role. I can't wait. He also doesn't take any crap from anyone, including Darth Vader, and the sheer excitement for whatever he was going to do in the next film was off the chain. And then, yeah, you know what happened. Pull your pants down and crap on it. Because when we get to Return of the Jedi, not only is he thrown into a pit and eaten by a sarlacc, but it's almost comical in the way it's done. I mean, he's kind of brawling with Han Solo, and he cartoonishly sends him up into the air with his malfunctioning jetpack. And when that stops working, he falls down and gets eaten by a monster. Do you know who this would have happened to? And I kid you not, Mr. Flippin' Bean. Number one, the aliens in the War of the Worlds. When you adapt something to the big screen, the first question is always how true is it going to be to the original? And usually a lot of the mistakes come in the fact that you veer away from this, but that's not true when it comes to H.G. Wells' The War of the Worlds, because most people stick to it. And that's actually the problem. Here though, we are going to look at the 2005 version with Tom Cruise, and despite all the heartache and carnage and madness that comes along with this, when you get to the end and realise that the aliens are dying out because they can't handle the bacteria on Earth, meaning they're dying from the common cold, well, you have to take a little moment. There is a certain novelty to it, but when your villain is actually dying after doing a sneeze, again, you kind of forget about all the wanton destruction and the heartbreak, and you're just like, well, man, I hope they don't get hay fever, because what the hell's going to happen to the men? And I get it too, it's not about the destination, it's about the journey. But sometimes it is about the journey. And while it's cool that H.G. Wells thought outside the box, in 2020, I don't think it works. Now, don't forget to leave a comment below and let us know about any other villains that had crappy deaths in sci-fi, and my gosh, there are loads. Like the video, share the video, subscribe to the channel, then head over to whatculture.com and read yourself some articles. Follow What Culture on Twitter at whatculture. Watch more videos here on What Culture. My name is Simon from What Culture. Thank you very much for watching me. It is Friday, it is Sci-Fi, and I'll see you next week.